This week on the Inkwell, we're taking a look at the two 2019 Chicago Pen Show Papier Plume limited edition inks, Lake Michigan Winter and Bad Bad Leroy Brown. So these two inks are the first Papier Plume inks that I've ever actually owned or used. One thing I really like about them, Papier Plume puts the wax stamp on each of their bottles, and it helps actually seal them in for transport. It also makes them a royal pain in the butt when you're trying to open them if they went a little bit overboard with the wax. As you can see here with my bottle of Lake Michigan Winter, I had to remove all the wax just to get to the ink. I must say though, once I got past that little hurdle, the ink in both of these bottles is actually really good. And I really wish they weren't limited editions, but they are, so I got lucky. Moving on to the swabs, you can tell that these are pretty straightforward colors. They're not too flashy, no shimmer, no sheen, but they're good, pleasing colors. One thing I did notice though, if you really like the look of Lake Michigan Winter and are kicking yourself for missing out on the limited edition ink, look at my swab of Morning Mist. They're pretty much spot on, so if you like the color, just go pick up a bottle of Morning Mist and you're pretty much set. Now, after seeing the swabs, I wanted to give the inks the best chance possible to see what they would actually give me on paper. So for Lake Michigan Winter, I went ahead and used my Newton Townsend with a number 6 broad Yovo nib. I really like the flow from this nib, so I think it's a good combination, and I couldn't be any happier with it. You know, the same could also be said of my pairing of Leroy Brown with the Nakaya Piccolo cigar in Heki Tamanori with the double broad nib. This is an amazing pairing, and I really like the color and the flow that I get with this combination. So that may be a long-term combination, who knows. So moving on to the writing sample, once again we are in the Endless Works 68 GSM Tamui River paper dot grid notebook. As you can see, the inks actually behave very well. Medium, slow dry time, which is kind of to be expected in nibs that wide. But let's take a closer look so you can see a few of the properties. So Leroy Brown has more pronounced shading than Lake Michigan Winter, and a little bit faster dry time than Winter does. But I must say that both inks are very well behaved. And I like that when you do get a considerable amount of ink on the paper, like in the drips and the swabs there, you do get some really pleasing shading, even though there's no sheen and no shimmer, and I'm okay with that. I'd rather have a good shading ink any day of the week, and I get that here with both of these limited edition inks. The one thing that does feel like it's missing though is consistency. Look at the difference in the swab of Leroy Brown on the coloring paper compared to the Tamui River paper. They don't look like the same ink, even though they were swabbed exactly the same. And I really wish there was some consistency there. But let's go ahead and move on over to close-ups of the water sample. Now, I didn't actually video the water sample this time around, so what we have here are before, during, and after images on Rhodia number 16 dot pad of both Leroy Brown and Michigan Winter. Once both samples get wet, you can see that both of them have quite a bit of ink lift, but it's not as bad as some of the inks that we've been reviewing on this channel recently. One thing of note is Leroy Brown is doing exactly what Noodler's Rome Burning does, and that is when the brown lifts off the paper, it does leave a purple underlayer on the paper itself. And once the water's been removed, you can see that purple layer a little better. Even though both inks overall did give away a little, they both held up quite well, and I'd say they're fairly water resistant, which is nice in both of these inks. So with the final scores written down here on the Rhodia dot pad, you can see that Leroy Brown got a 9 out of 10, which is really good, and Lake Michigan Winter got a 9.25 out of 10. And it's also my overall favorite between these two limited edition inks. So even though I wasn't able to make it to the 2019 Chicago Pen Show to pick these up myself, I would like to thank Michael J. from Hypothetical for getting these inks to me and giving me some really nice additions to my collection. Like I said, at least with Lake Michigan Winter, if that's the kind of ink that you would like and you missed out, then click on the link down below to Robert Oster Morning Mist and pick up a bottle for yourself. That way you've got a color that's really close, if not spot on in some aspects. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you liked the video, click that like button. If you're new to the channel, click subscribe. Either way, comment down below. Follow the channel on Twitter and Instagram at the Inkwell. Join our Discord. Check out the Two Guys Zero Planners podcast that I do bi-weekly with Urban Hafner from fpc.inc, and support the channel over on patreon.com/theinkwell. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next week.